Hello, my name is Mr. Rock, and welcome to Fantasy Island. Price, value, selection, nobody even comes close.
Besides price, value, selection, nobody even comes close.
Oh, God, guys, let's talk about Fantasy Island. Thank you so much for tuning in to MoviePOP. Hey, you know what? That's tangentially related because one of the questions I'd like to ask you before we dive into this right now is whether or not Fantasy Island is indeed your sexual hot, wet dream of a fantasy, or is it a scat porn of poop? We'll have to find out. But there is a second question to ask yourselves. And that's, this film came out on the 14th of February. That's Valentine's Day. So if you haven't had your hot babe or your hot bear, for all the gay boys out there, the question still arises. Is this a good date movie? And how does it rank on the boner meter that I like to rank films by, separate from the popcorn meter? Is it a piping hot red rocket, or is it a flaccid, cold lump of shriveled, eeny-weeny, teeny-weeny man-meat? We'll just have to find out. But I'll tell you right now, guys, I think it's a piping hot red rocket. All systems are a go. Time to engage into sexual congress. So without further ado, let's talk about my review of Fantasy Island.
Good evening. I'm Mr. Rurik. Let me officially welcome you to Fantasy Island.
Curious how this all works.
What if your fantasy involves a person from your life?
Holograms, like Tupac.
What if it's somebody who died?
Tupac.
Fantasy Island tries to show audiences the dark side of the Force, of wish fulfillment, but mainly serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of exhuming long dead franchises. Ooh, damn, that is a hot take. And you know what? That's further evidenced by the score on Rotten Tomatoes. It is currently holding a paltry 10% from critics, followed by a 46% from audiences. So, you know what? If we're going to be trusting Rotten Tomatoes, this is a hot, piping, steaming bag of poop. And you know what? I'm going to have to disagree. So let's just jump right into it. I'm going to start with my expectations for the film. Guys, if you haven't seen the trailer for this, it is a fantastically well put together trailer. And it's evidence of the fact that, despite how good a trailer may look, it is not necessarily what you may get in the end product. And this film clearly is a chief example of that. I agree with what I'm saying because I am saying it. But also, for those of you who really just hate this movie, I think you will definitely agree with that statement. But if you saw the trailer, it looked well produced. They outright told us the genre twist of this film, right? Because we know the original property, Fantasy Island with Ricardo Montalban, was a classic show back in yesteryear, where old Grandpappy was watching Fantasy Island on CBS when we had 10 channels only to watch. And then, of course, we had the reboot with Malcolm McDowell, right? Kind of sinister, kind of, switching it up a bit. So I thought, this seemed like a really cool reboot. We've got Michael Pena, a famous comedic actor who does have serious dramatic chops. We had a decent enough cast. One in particular was Jimmy O. Wang. So I thought, we're going to have a nice, cool blend of horror and comedy, two diametrically opposed genres that often do work very well together. And most notably, in the golden / crap years or era of 90s horror films. They had often blended the two genres together. So I was really hoping for something like that. It did seem like this film would be very suspenseful. Perhaps maybe a lot of gore, some horror elements, but also, a little lightweight as well. And, I wasn't expecting much character development. I don't think Blumhouse is really necessarily the go-to studios for very character-focused, very grounded, very art house levels quality for horror films like A24. So that was my expectations for this. The surprising twist about the genre switch up was blatantly laid out, so I was not expecting anything beyond that. So yeah, let's just jump right into the pros for this. As I've said, I found this film to be quite funny, actually. I love Jimmy O. Wang, not wing, like a bird. The cinematography was great, as evidenced in the trailer. And you know what? The end of this film does have a nice little Easter egg, if you're familiar with the franchise of properties. I won't give it away to you right now, but I thought it was nice. That aside, though, I do think there are some very serious cons. And then I want to add on to this with my final thoughts for the film. The biggest con about this, guys, is the trailers for the marketing of this movie. Basically, every fantasy you see in the trailer is what you get in the film, and you can pretty much infer like what the eventual outcome of these situations are. And the film does not do anything further really to elaborate upon them. I think there is one sequence for one specific fantasy that is not in the trailer, but honestly, it was one of the most least interesting of them. So I'm surprised they didn't use that in the marketing material. That aside, guys, full disclosure, I was on the hottest, most transcendental, most serendipitous date of my life that eventually ended up with me having a current girlfriend, love of my life. So, you know, we were talking, we were giddy, we were happy to be there. And, you know, as is such with these things, your environment definitely does have a strong influence on your perception of whatever it is you may be doing or eating or fudging, whatever it is may be. So I was in very high spirits. So, you know, we did not find the film to be as offensive as 10% or 46%. Not saying it's a good film, but not that bad. So with that out the way, I'm going to say Fantasy Island, it's going to get a 3 out of 5 bags of popcorn. It does marginally pass, but is definitely not something you should go out of your way to see unless you've got some free time or you really like to see niggas getting slashed up. So with that out the way, guys, hey, thank you so much for watching the review on Fantasy Island. Make sure to tune in this Saturday. We've got a very special guest host. It's Stephanie Gallardo from MoviePOP. She'll be on Weekly Weekender. We're going to be talking about some of the 10 biggest topics of Hollywood and movie news this weekend. It's Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Be there, be square. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next time.